What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another episode of Bleeding BnG. Before we get too deep into this episode, you already know what I'm going to say. If you're checking us out on YouTube, be sure to comment, be sure to like, be sure to subscribe because, guys, football season is here. And if you haven't realized by now, we are pushing out content almost daily at this point. And I know I haven't been looking out for my audio-only platform members, but guess what? That's what this video is for. But I have been pushing out daily content, pushing out a couple of YouTube exclusives. That's really where we've been doing our training camp recaps, and we've been going daily. So if you haven't had a chance to check out those videos, go ahead. But I'm here for my audio-only platform members as well as my YouTube family today, and I think I have some fun, exciting content for you guys today. So today, to give you a timestamp as I do for all of my episodes, today is Friday, August the 2nd, and we're just about to going to conclude week 2 of Commanders training camp. We're just about to conclude week 2 of Commanders training camp with a practice tomorrow, and then the guys will have an off day before we get to joint practice week and week 1 of the NFL preseason. And guess what? I'm so excited. We got our first taste of it with the Hall of Fame game yesterday, but that wasn't my team, so I couldn't get too excited. The most excitement I got was actually watching the new kickoff. But without further ado, let's get into this episode. And like I said, guys, I have a Commanders stock watch episode for you today. And no, we're not on Wall Street, so let me give you a gist of how this episode is going to go. So we're going to give you 3 players whose stocks have risen and 3 players whose stocks have taken a free fall since the beginning of Commanders training camp over the course of the last 2 weeks. So you guys know that we were actually boots on the ground there on Sunday. So I'm going to give you some observations from my first-person point of view, but also us tapping in with all the beat reporters that we've been watching and listening to over the course of the last couple of weeks. Now, I was supposed to be out there boots on the ground yesterday, but I had some family things come up. Didn't get a chance to get out there, but my brother actually got a chance to get out there, and I saw some film, some video, and some things that, you know, only we can give you over here at Bleeding BnG, because you know you come to us for the most raw, uncut, and unfiltered analysis on the Washington Commanders. And without further ado, man, let's get into this video. And I was thinking about who I wanted to, or which group I wanted to start with. Was it going to be the stock down group, or was it going to be the stock up group? But it wouldn't be us. It wouldn't be us over here at Bleeding BnG with the most raw, uncut, and unfiltered analysis if we didn't start with the stock down performers and performers whose stocks have taken a hit since the beginning of training camp, as I mentioned a couple of minutes ago. So I gave you 3 names who haven't necessarily been rising up to the occasion and, you know, performing the best due to my first person point of view and what the beat reporters are saying, some common trends and some common instances that we're noticing from the beat reporters. Shout out to all the Washington beat reporters doing their thing. Because I was just in that heat for one day, and that shit was kicking my ass. So without further ado, let's get into this episode, man. So number one on our stock down list for the Commanders through 2 weeks of training camp is safety Derek Forrest. Now, if you're not following me on social media, you should. But you guys noticed after my training camp observations on Sunday, I tweeted that Derek Forrest should be looking over his shoulder. And a couple of people got butthurt about it. I don't know why. I don't know why you guys got mad at my observations. They were my observations. Some of you guys weren't at camp. So I don't know why you guys got mad at my observations. But it seems to be a trend that ever since we made that tweet, a lot of the beat reporters are catching on and saying how Derek Forrest seems to be safety number 5 and 6 on the depth chart. But you know you heard it here first over here at Bleeding BnG. We said that on Sunday. And his week just didn't seem to get better. When I was out there on Sunday, he was rocking a lot with the 2s and the 3s. And the sad thing about it, or not the sad thing about it, but the thing that really made me start to question his security on the roster is that, you know, we got Percy Butler and we got Jeremy Chin. They seem to be locked in, solidified as the 2 safety starters. And then Percy Butler, We got Quan Martin and Jeremy Chin. Those two seem to be solidified as the two safety starters. And then you have Percy Butler rotating as the third safety. And we know that Dan Quinn and Joe Wood Jr. like to run a lot of 3 safety sets and things of that nature. So Percy Butler was getting a lot of runs with the ones, and him and Mikey Sanders here were interchanging when they didn't necessarily use a nickel back. Now, Derek Forrest was running with the 2s with a guy like Percy Butler, but a guy like Derek Hampton that we actually drafted in the 6th round, while he was running with the 3s, he actually got some reps with the 2s and the 1s. It's like in a dime linebacker role, a role that we know that is essential in a Dan Quinn defense, something that like a J-Ron Curse has played in the past, a guy like Cam Chancellor has played in the past. So it seems like even though Derek Forrest was running with the 2s more than a guy like Hampton, it seems like they have a solidified role for Hampton, and Hampton is a draft pick of this new regime, something that we can't say for the likes of a guy like Derek Forrest. So they're not going to cut ties with a guy that they brought in if the gap or the talent gap isn't substantial. And right now, just to tell you, it's not. It isn't. Now, I know a lot of you guys are holding on to the 2022 season where Derek Forrest did perform really well. Well, we got to let that go because none of these guys that were brought in over the course of this offseason, Lance Newmark, Adam Peters, Dan Quinn, you name it, they have no ties to Derek Forrest prior to 2024. So to see him running with the 2s, and then we're looking back and looking at a magnified point of view and knowing that safety room is already crowded, yeah, the stock isn't as high as it was coming out of the 2022 or the 2023 season, even though his season was injury-riddled in 2023. He's coming off of an injury-riddled season. So we got to start hopping off of that 2022 year, and we got to be realistic as what he is now. And he essentially is a guy that hasn't shown us anything in 2 years, and he hasn't shown this new regime anything for them to have these ties to him. And to make matters worse, Dan Quinn, and news came out today during his pre-practice press conference that he actually injured his hamstring. Now, Derek Forrest is a twitched-up safety. He's more of a speed guy, and speed guys and hamstring injuries always concern me, and Dan Quinn didn't sound too promising. He said that he may be able to come out there and do some light work on Monday, but that wasn't necessarily too convincing. And knowing that you guys are about to go into a joint practice with the New York Jets, I don't know if you want to throw him in that line of fire. So the stock is low. The stock is low, and it wasn't as high, and it isn't as high as it was on Derek Forrest 2 weeks ago. Sorry if that hurts you guys, because I know a lot of you guys were butthurt with my observations. I like Derek Forrest as a guy, but the facts are the facts, and I just laid them out here, and that's why you come to Bleeding BnG, because we got to give it to you raw, filtered, and uncut. So number 2 on our stock down list is tackle Andrew Wiley. And to be honest and quite frank, there's not too much to say here. Andrew Wiley hasn't had a normal practice all week. Again, we were first. You heard it here first. That's why you got to come over here and subscribe, because you hear a lot of the stuff regarding this team first over here at Bleeding BnG. Because we told you first that Andrew Wiley was cooked on Sunday because we saw him in individuals look horrible. I don't know another way to put it. He looked like ass. He looked like flat out ass. And we did mention in our training camp recap episodes that he did look like he had some tightness. He was moving like he was marginalized and like he wasn't 100%. But Andrew Wiley was getting his ass whipped in individuals, and that's all on Sunday when I was there, boots on the ground in Ashburn. And that's all that we saw of him for the remainder of that Sunday practice. Now, a lot of beat reporters were claiming that he didn't practice at all on Sunday, and I don't know why that was the fucking case, because we saw him getting his ass whooped. And to us, it seemed as if like he was performing so bad in individuals. And like I said, he wasn't moving right, that the coaches were like, all right, we're just going to let you sit this one out over the course of, the team 11 on 11 session and things of that nature. But it seems as if they've been having him sit out for the rest of the week, according to a lot of the beat reporters, because it was interesting starting on Monday. I think John Conn was the first to report like, oh no, Andrew Wiley was actually out there on Sunday, even though we told you that first over here at Bleeding BnG. But Andrew Wiley is cooked. Now, they're being very vague with this injury disclaimer. They're just regarding to it as tightness. But like I said, he hasn't had a normal practice all week, but he's been out there. He hasn't necessarily sat out of practice. But this is a guy that has been dealing with tightness. They won't tell us what part of the body, and I'm not saying that we need to know. That's to his discretion, but it's something to spike interest, and it's something to make you inquire about it when you see that he's sitting out of team sessions. But then it's been reported in the last 2 days that he's been doing field goal block. So if he's healthy enough to be out there, why isn't he out there running with the team? Now, I think that reports came out today that he did get some reps with the twos. So this is a guy that coming into this year, a lot of people were pegging as maybe the right tackle starter because we didn't do much in the offseason. And I know that he was coming off of a down year, but a lot of that had to do with Sam Howell holding to the ball and things of that nature. So if a lot of people, or for those that were pegging him as the right tackle starter from day one, it doesn't look like that so far through 2 weeks of camp. So as far as his stock being down, you see why. Because as of right now, it looks like he might not be one of the starting 5 offensive linemen. And then to hear a guy like Dan Quinn say that we're really focused on Andrew Wiley squarely at tackle, that cancels out some of the position versatility that we thought that he might have had with him playing guard in Kansas City. And they're saying that they're looking at him squarely as a tackle. And if he's not playing that tackle position well, what does that tell you about him and his security for this roster? Now, I don't know if he's going to get cut because that's a significant cap hit, but he might end up being your swing tackle on the roster come week 1. Now, our third and our final person on the stock down list for Commanders training camp through the first 2 weeks of Commanders training camp 2024. I tried my best. I promise you I did. I tried my best to avoid putting a rookie on here, but just in terms of his stock not being as high as it was 2 weeks ago, the third player on our stock down list is wide receiver, 3rd round draft pick, Luke McCaffrey, 3rd round draft pick out of Rice. And a lot of this might be due to my perception or the fan perception. But a lot of people thought that Luke was going to come in and battle for the wide receiver 3 role. And that just simply hasn't been the case. When I was out there on Sunday, he was out there with the threes a lot. I'm just going to be completely honest with you. He was out there with the threes a lot. And then you hear a guy like Dan Quinn in his pre-practice press conference on Thursday. Matter of fact, I think he might have did it earlier in the week as well. He's been shouting out De'Ami Brown a couple of times since the pad has come on. Now I know. I'm not going to be the one to fall for the De'Ami Brown training camp hype for the 4th year in a row. No, I won't do it. Not Mr. De'Ami Brown be out there running around. But Dan Quinn has mentioned De'Ami Brown a plethora of times as somebody that he's seen positive signs of over the first 2 weeks of camp. So he seems to might have a bead or a stranglehold on that wide receiver 3 spot right now, as it is 2 weeks into camp. And if we were looking at Luke McCaffrey to potentially take that role, his stock isn't where it is. His stock isn't at wide receiver 3 right now. And then you see him, the team bring in the likes of a Byron Pringle to add some talent into the wide receiver room. That just showed you that they're not really impressed with the bottom half of their receiver roster. And I actually had an interesting take, and I'm not trying to be hot takey. I'm not trying to go viral or anything like that. Just using my football mind and knowing how roster construction goes. I wouldn't necessarily be surprised if Luke McCaffrey is inactive early in the season. And the reason that I say that is us being boots on the ground and seeing that he's not, or the beat report is not mentioning that he's making a lot of flash plays to go on along with what we were seeing in camp. This is a guy that, doesn't seem to have a solidified role right now. And he hasn't really been going out there taking reps with the kick return and the punt return game. And he doesn't seem to be a special team demon on the coverage units, right? So if you look at it as of right now, you look at Terry McLaurin, Jahan Dotson, Alameda Zacchaeus was potentially on my stock up list. He's been having a pretty decent camp. And De'Ami Brown, right? That's 4 receivers. And then it seems as if Jamison Crowder is is in the lead for the punt return duties once again for the 100th year in a row. So that's 5 wide receivers, and the team only tends to keep 5 to 6 wide receivers active on game day. So I know that Luke is banking on Mikey Sainristil or somebody superseding or surpassing Jamison Crowder on the depth chart as far as punt return duties go. But Luke McCaffrey is a guy that's going to need a big preseason. He's not in danger of getting cut or anything like that. We're not going to cut a 3rd round draft pick in his rookie season. But I don't know if or how long it's going to take him to solidify that wide receiver 3 role that a couple of pundits and a couple of us as fans were talking about he might be ready to take when we drafted him in April. That's the furthest thing from the case. So that'll do it for our 3 stock down players. Now let's get to a more lighter or more positive note. And let me give you the 3 players whose stocks have risen. 3 players who have risen to the occasion over the course of the first 2 weeks of training camp. And 3 players who have more than solidified their position. Let me not say that. Let me not get too far ahead of my skis because I might have a surprise name on this list. So number 1 on our stock list, our stock up list is tackle Brandon Coleman, our 3rd round draft pick out of TCU. And if you guys didn't listen to my training camp recap episode when I was out there in Ashburn, he's big as hell. He's got more of a square body, so I see where the guard, projections were. But if you look at his arm length and you look at his footwork, he's a tackle. He's a tackle. I don't see Rashawn Slater, who is built like a guard, having any problem holding up at the left tackle position. And I think that Brandon Coleman is a good comp, or Rashawn Slater is a good comp for Brandon Coleman. Not saying that he's that level of talent right now, because Rashawn Slater was damn near day 1 All-Pro. We saw what he did to Chase Young and Montez Sweat in his first career game. But this is a guy that Brandon Coleman reminds me of. And going back to just simply Brandon Coleman, this is a guy that's been dominating over the course of the first 2 weeks of camp and making Adam Peters look like a genius. Because guess what? If you found your starting left tackle in the 3rd round in the same draft where you got your perceived to be franchise quarterback, oh, you might as well start building the Adam Peters statue outside of Landover. We could go ahead and ship it to whatever new stadium we're going to go to, because we ain't never seen that type of draft fortune. Chris Samuels and LeVar Arrington ain't even that type of draft fortune, if we being 100% honest. And it looks like that might be the case with the way that Brandon Coleman's first 2 weeks are. He's the leader in the clubhouse for the left tackle, one being as though he's taken almost all the reps with the first team over the course of this week at the left tackle position. And when the pads came on and when they started doing one-on-ones over the course of yesterday and today, him and Samuel Cosme seem to be the most dominant linemen out there as far as, the beat reporters have mentioned on Twitter and things of that nature. I heard John Keim and Mitch Tischler mention how good that Brandon Coleman was in the one-on-one session, showing his mean streak and showing some of his competitive fire. And bringing that type of talent into already, it ain't like our cup was runneth over of talent in that offensive line room, right? So to see that he's solidifying that room, it didn't take much to have better left tackle play than we've had over the course of the last couple of years. Sorry, Chucky L, Charles Leno Jr., but to see that he's over there doing it, I love to hear it. And it seems to be a trend that everybody's noticing amongst all the beat reporters up there at Ashburn. So my man Brandon Coleman seems to be showing out for sure. Number 2 on our stock up list. I hope I didn't give it away with the jersey. But number 2 on our stock up list is wide receiver Jahan Dotson. And guess what? To be honest, I'm going to be quite frank with y'all. I'm grasping at straws right now for any type of breakout performance from Jahan Dotson. So to hear that he's been dominant in 1-on-1, 7-on-7s, and 11-on-11s in the course of the last couple of days since the pads has been on, a lot of beat reporters have said Jahan Dotson has looked like the best wide receiver this week. Now, Terry McLaurin has had a pretty positive camp as well. And Terry McLaurin is who we thought he was. I'm never going to look at Terry McLaurin in a negative light. But I'm admittedly low after that putrid ass bullshit season that we saw out of Jahan Dotson in the 2023 season. And to be 100% honest with y'all, the fact that I got this jersey on in this video is a miracle in itself, because I was ready to take this to the Goodwill in January. I was ready to take this to the Salvation Army in January. But I was like, let me hold out, because I honestly felt like a dumbass. This felt like one of the worst purchases I've ever made in my life, buying a jersey for somebody that had 400 more yards than me. But it seems like Jahan Dotson might be on his redemption tour in year 3, He had a dominant week of practice, as I mentioned, and it seems like he's the guy that's building that rapport with Jaden Daniels. And to have two guys that are on their rookie contract, that is big to hear. This is a make or break year for Jahan, but these are two guys that, in Jaden Daniels and Jahan Dotson, two JD connections, that if they can build that rapport, like I said, these are two guys that are still on their rookie contract, where you can get a lot of production from guys that aren't eating at your cap, and that's when you can start building a team and start splashing on other players, and you get production from not only your wide receiver 1 in Terry McLaurin, but your wide receiver 2 in Jahan Dotson at a discounted price, being that he's on his rookie contract. So to hear that Jahan Dotson is balling out is something that I've been waiting to hear for about 2 years, something that I really haven't heard since 2022. And to be honest, he had a quiet first week of camp, and he didn't necessarily stand out when I was there on Sunday. So I guess I just had to get the hell out of Ashburn, because since I left, or since I've been gone, he has seemed to ball out. And yeah, number 2 on our stock up list, wide receiver Jahan Dotson. And last but not least, on our stock up list for the Washington Commanders 2024 training camp, first through the first 2 weeks of camp, is undrafted free agent safety Tyler Owens out of the University of Texas Tech. Now, this is the 6'2", 215-pound safety who has been balling the fuck out, just to be 100% honest with you. As of right now, Tyler Owens looks like Ed fucking Reed out there. And that's no hyperbole. That is no size. When I was out there Sunday, I'm like, who is this big? And he got dreads. I was like, who's this big-ass dreadhead safety flying all around? Now, he does have number 40, which was giving me bad vibes. He was giving me Adam Archuleta vibes. But he didn't look anything. Adam Archuleta wish he had the range that Tyler Owens was showing me on Sunday. And it seems to be a trend, and it seems to be that he's keeping up his play with him catching another interception today. And this is a guy that, when I was out there on Sunday, he looked mighty comfortable in that high post role. And that's something that we don't necessarily, if you hear those measurables, 6'2", 215, you're thinking, oh, box safety. Oh, he needs to play close to the line of scrimmage. No. He looks like Ed Reed out there. This is a guy that has been showing impeccable ball skills. He showed him out there when I was on Sunday. It was damn near a no-fly zone when he was out there. And I was skeptical. I didn't really want to give him too much hype because he was running with a lot of 2s and 3s. But he's been getting a couple of reps with the 1s. And that's one of the reasons why, Derek Forrest was on our stock down list. Because it seems like a guy like Tyler Owens is outshining him in training camp and outshining him with these reps that they are getting with the 2s and the 3s. And this is a guy that had a 10.0 perfect raw athletic score. And you've seen that Adam Peters and Dan Quinn are all about their analytics and their athletic numbers. We know that Josh Harris is. And it seems that 10.0 raw athletic score is translating to the field. It looks like it. He looks like he has 4.3, 4.4 speed with that range that he's showing in the post. He's showing in the back end playing that deep post safety. And to be honest, I like the type of range that Percy Butler has, but he looks like he might have a little bit more ball skills than a guy like Percy Butler. So a guy like Tyler Owens, you heard it here first at Bleeding BnG. That's a guy that you guys need to be looking out for over the course of the preseason, over the course of the next couple of weeks with the joint practices to see, because he might find a way to sneak on that 53-man roster when it's all said and done come that first week in September. So that'll do it. That'll do it for this episode. That'll do it for Commander Stock Watch. Let me know how you guys feel. Let me know if you've been tapped in with the beat reporters, if you've been tapped in with the page. Let me know how you guys are feeling about my list. Let me know who you would put in your stock up, stock down list, because as I mentioned before, I love chopping it up with you guys, and football is here. So we ain't got nothing better to do than to talk football. With that being said, as always, if you're not following us on social media, be sure, because we over there tweeting up a storm. We cutting up on Instagram as well, at Bleeding BnG. That's BLEEDIN BnG on X, BLEEDING BnG on Instagram. If you haven't got a chance to check us out on audio-only platforms, be sure to do that. Be sure to leave a rating and a review, because that's how we finesse these algorithms, so that when you're searching anything Washington Commanders, Bleeding BnG is that #1 content hub that pops up in your search bar. And as you see, I'm pushing out that content, and hopefully you guys are enjoying it. But be sure to infiltrate that comments on YouTube, and most importantly, hit that subscribe button. And I'll check in on you guys later with a lot more Commanders news and